Welcome to TMI with Teryl and Martha. We're so glad that you're here. We want you to be a part of this community that we've created. You can listen to us on all of the podcast platforms, but you can also like and subscribe us if you're watching us on YouTube so that you can be a part of the comments, and we'd love to hear from you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about a big announcement that was made by Robert F. Kennedy recently related to hormones in women and menopause and all these things we've been talking about. And then I just got back from a trip to Israel, so we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
I'm very excited to talk to you about your trip.
Thank you.
Martha and I, when we get to talk to each other here in front of all you guys, we're at the same time learning a lot about each other, which is really fun because you're learning about us and we're learning about each other, even though we've known each other for a very long time. It's not often we get a chance to have like intimate engagement where we can sit and chat and see how things are really going. So we use this time with you guys here. We'll spill the tea and we will just get to know each other more and more as we go along. So let's talk about RFK first, since that's kind of hot off the presses. And we did have Dr. Jamie in a previous episode talk about hormone health and the kind of the things that are going behind the use of estrogen.
Yeah. So for years, of course, I'm 66, I don't mind saying. And so I went through menopause at 47. So I'm coming up on 20 years. And there was an interesting discussion going on at the time that I was going through that, about whether to do hormones or not do hormones. And at that time, my gynecologist said, well, based on this study, there is a link between estrogen and breast cancer. So if, I still had all my parts, all that kind of stuff, I made the decision not to do hormone replacement therapy. And so I'm almost 20 years out now at this point in time. And just recently this week, the RFK has said that there's been a number of new studies done and that what they've discovered now is that women actually do better when they have hormone replacement therapy. I got to tell you, the jury's out for me because obviously I'm too late. It's too late for me at this point in time. But I just still feel like women get jerked around. They say, oh, you should do this. Oh, you shouldn't do that.
True.
It's like my gut tells me I still have all my parts and that God meant for them to stop working at some point in time.
Right.
And I'm okay with the fact that occasionally I have to shave. Occasionally, you know what I mean? I'm okay
Does
with
anybody
that.
else out there have to shave?
I'm okay with that because it's my sex life is fine. I feel good in general. Yeah. And I just kind of made the decision. It wasn't a hard decision for me to make that, hey, God meant for these things to stop working.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be 20 years old.
Well, your operational system,
let's
talk, we can talk techie maybe.
Yeah.
But your operation system is fine.
Yes.
But I will also say you are absolutely gorgeous. Your skin's fine. Like you're not suffering from aging as far as I can see.
Thank you.
You are not. You are what I would call, I own a spa, as you well know. So there is a difference to me. When you look at someone who's aging gracefully, there's a radiance, a beautiful radiance that comes from within that goes out that has nothing to do with a single wrinkle or age spot or anything else. It's a radiance of I'm comfortable in my skin. I own who I am, and this is who I am. Take good care of yourself, but you have that radiance. And,
well, thank you.
And did a little happy dance when you said you wanted to be on the wellness podcast with me, because I thought, number one, you're so good at delivering really important information, but you're beautiful, and you and I get to share this ride together. It's fun.
But I think it's important for millions of women
to understand
that they've been afraid because, breast cancer is like the thing that used to scare us a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've done a really good job of treating breast cancer, and we're taping this in November where, it is Lung Cancer Awareness Month. There are other problems with people's health, but I think we did a really laser focused 20 years on breast cancer, and we've made a huge amount of progress. We have. And
to where I think it's healthy. Anybody listening to this podcast or listening to RFK Jr. and all the stuff that's coming down through the chutes that's changing in this country, all these things are good changes. But it's always a trust and verify. I think there's a lot that they're not saying still around the estrogen, right? And each human being is so different. There is no one fix for any one human being. I believe that we're the guardians for our own, at the gate of our own health and wellness, right? So I think it's due diligence to be not buying in right off the bat. And, we're different. So I started doing, what am I? Oh, I'm going to be 60 in January. So I'm going to be 60 in January. I started doing hormone replacement recently because of my introduction to Dr. Jamie. I will say I had a brief run with it. We have another wonderful gynecologist here in town who also does a lot of functional medicine. She's been doing, bioidentical hormones for a long time. Dr. Amber French. She's with, I think, Gainesville. And I did do a brush with it, but I ended up getting sick and got put in the hospital with some gut issues. Never went back to it because I didn't know. Did that cause it? What caused it? I don't know. But when you start messing with your hormones, you're messing with a slew of different problems or potential problems. Breast cancer is one of them, right? But I agree that if you have breast cancer in your history, you may want to be more cautious. But I also, as we all listen to Dr. Mickey, there's a difference between synthetic hormones and bioidentical hormones. Do your homework on that. I'm not going to do any lectures because I'm not medical. Martha's not a medical person. She's married to a doctor, which I am not. But we do.
It doesn't give me any
our
more.
opinions do not have anything to do with medical advice. And just remember that, because what we're talking about is just our own personal experiences. And I have found, for me personally, I do agree with the fact that our bodies stop emitting hormones for a reason. I'm not sure if I can say for sure that that's God's original design, because I feel like we're in such a fallen condition as a race of humans, and even our planet at a certain level. I'm not sure if our hormones receding and women going into the menopausal days, if that's really a divine design, or if that's something that we're subject to because of the fall, so to speak, of man at a certain level. And that's really getting deep, and we can talk about that later. But honestly, I just don't know. So for me, what I do know is how I feel, right? And you were feeling fine. You had all your parts. You didn't have any symptoms. Whereas I chose to start with bioidentical hormones for a variety of reasons, one of which I was feeling specific symptoms that were troubling me, whether it was brain fog, fatigue, a weird weight gain that came out of nowhere, 10 pounds, boop, guess what? Started the hormones. Also thyroid went out of whack. But as soon as I gave my body back some of that, boop, dropped that 10 pounds right back within, a month's time. It's strange that, I don't like scales, so I stopped having a relationship with them. Good idea for anybody out there. But when I did go stand on the scale at a checkup, a doctor appointment, I was shocked because it had slowly trickled away, just like it came on board. It came on board like a freight train, which told me, what the thing is, you got to know your body. You got to really have a connection with your body, know how you're feeling, and you have to go with that. But definitely, I think we're headed in a positive direction with RFK Jr., don't you?
I do. I mean, I know there's a lot of people questioning the things that are happening, but I think he is putting forward good science. You can go back and check what it is.
Right.
He's asking questions, which I don't think is something that we should be opposed to. And I, if for me, and we've said this before on this program, if all he does is clean up the food supply and then update some of the parameters around things like hormone replacement, I think it will have been a win. I mean, it's hard to fathom just how big the Department of Health and Human Services is. I mean, it is something like, I don't know, at least a third of the budget of the United States of America.
That's
it's a huge amount. It's twice as much as the defense budget. It's more, I mean, people always talk about defense. Health and Human Services is a huge thing. Medicare's in that.
Yeah.
Medicaid's in that. It is not a question that we don't spend enough money on healthcare in this country. It is a question of how we spend that money and what it goes through. I mean, something like 2/3 of all the money that's spent in the federal government, or maybe it's more like a half instead of 2/3, is on some sort of healthcare program, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, something that's going to help you with your health.
Right.
It's how we spend the money, which is the problem. People are always saying, oh, we should be like, the people that have all the paid for healthcare that you have in European countries. And you know what? I can hear that argument, but in all of those countries, they have doctor strikes. We wouldn't stand for that here.
Yeah.
If the doctor said, we're going out on strike until we get more money and so you can't come to the doctor, we wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, no.
Okay. So every system has its problems.
Right.
And we have to just figure out how we're going to get through it. And I think this is going to be a good one. There's a lot of women now. I would have liked to have had this information 20 years ago because all us baby boomer women were told one thing one day and another thing the next day and another thing the next day.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I give up. Okay. But there's a lot of women coming behind us and maybe they'll be able to make better decisions.
And I think that's such a good thing, right? Having options, which is that I think for people listening to this show, if you are in the United States of America, no matter what side of the coin you're on, the fact is that our country, if we're living and born into this country, we are provided choices and options that so many people don't have. And if you look at the world as a whole, and I think no matter, is the system broken? Yeah, I think it might be. I mean, how can we be the wealthiest country in the world and have the sickest population? That's a symptom that there's something in the system that's not working well. And it's the job of all of us here to try to figure out.
And I would question that.
Fix that.
I think that's a catchphrase, we're the wealthiest country, but we're the sickest population. I haven't seen the verification for that. I've heard it said. Robert Kennedy says it. A lot of people say it. But I wonder what they measure that by.
Right.
And it is true that life expectancy has gotten lower.
Right.
And that is largely due to fentanyl poisoning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
There were a lot of young people, 100,000 a year. Now that's getting better this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are 100,000 a year. When you have 100,000 a year of young people die, it brings that average, down. The average life expectancy, I think, is around 74 for male and about 78 for women. But if you get to be 65 and you're relatively healthy, you're probably going to live to be 85.
That's great.
And now a girl born today, they think she's going to live past 100.
Right.
But now also, if you are doing any kind of actuary stuff, like you're trying to manage your money or anything like that, they now kind of see, do you have enough money to last until you're 97? So there must be enough people that are living into their 90s.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the 90-year-olds who are on the pickleball courts as we speak right now. There's like some about pickleball I'm going to start playing more of because apparently, you play pickleball, you're going to live forever. So
yeah, maybe so.
I'm going to try to start playing pickleball.
Maybe so. I have
till I break a leg and then Tara's not going to let me play pickleball anymore.
So I would just say to folks, follow this. There's a lot of discussion about it. I wouldn't completely discount it out of hand because Robert F. Kennedy talked about it. I have been impressed with how he has approached issues. And I know a lot of people still want to say crazy things about him, but I think all in all,
that, but
he's kind of earned some of it.
We all do stupid stuff.
I feel like we live in such a world now where I don't know if our impressions about people are real or if it's something we saw on the internet.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw it a couple of weeks ago where in the political world.
Oh, I was so sad about that. about Mike Collins doing the
AI ad.
that was so uncalled for.
Yeah. I mean, that was
Ouch.
just crazy.
Yeah.
And it was funny how she knew right where I was going with
I
that.
did.
It was
I know.
it was an AI ad.
Mhm.
And I worry about that in what I do.
Yeah.
As somebody, there's enough of me out there that somebody
And
could
even
just
more
create
now that
somebody.
we've got this show.
Yeah, that somebody could just
our
create.
voices are out there, our photos
right.
are out there. Yeah, that was something I heard from another, I think 95.5. I was listening to the radio, and I love that. They're very balanced in their views. Not all of them love Trump. Not all of them. Some do, some don't. It's just kind of cool to listen to people like yourself who are balanced. They see things how they are, but they were kind of saying, look, these things could happen to you tomorrow. To any one of us. So that should not be something that the people that we're looking to lead us are doing in any way, shape, or form. So I was in full agreement with that. But
yeah, I just don't think. I think that's a line we shouldn't cross.
That is absolutely.
And I get that. Mike is in a very competitive race. I like Mike Collins. I think he took some bad advice on that one.
Yeah.
And the thing you always have to remember when you run for office is that your name is on that thing. No one's ever going to know the name of your consultant. No one's ever going to know the name of your media buyer.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to know the name of any of these. They're going to know your name.
And
you've
that.
got to-
You
yes.
have been in that range.
You've got
of
to be
things.
sure that there's any, when I ran my race, there was a piece of information that I could have used that I knew was true, but I couldn't get the independent verification. And there were a lot of people that came to me, I just can't go on the record for this, but I can tell you I was there. It's true. And I chose not to go with it.
Well, you've got integrity.
Because, I chose not to go with it because I didn't want to win that bad, that I would put something out there that even though I knew it was true, that a lot of people are going to say it wasn't. And I didn't have the third-party verification. That's what they call that, a third-party verification. So you've got to be careful in all of those areas. So I think it's very good news that we're having these new things related to food, related to hormone replacement therapy, vaccines. I mean, all the areas we're looking at things. And I just hope that you guys that lean a little bit left are not just, I'm not going to accept everything on my side without checking it out.
Yeah.
But don't discount it out of hand just because it's not on your side.
I think if our country could come together more that way, trust but verify, listen to what's out there, but don't put your heart into it. Don't get reactive. I think that we could see better days for sure if we move in that direction. And, that's where I know it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on as far as your leanings. We are all human beings and we have to eat, we have to drink, we have to breathe. And that is one thing we have in common all the way around is that we want clean foods. We want clean air. We want our children to thrive and live and have a beautiful opportunity for their future, our grandchildren. And that's the same no matter who you are in this country. So that's what makes us all human, which makes us all Americans at one point, is our desire to see our future for our children and grandchildren to be something we can be proud of. May look a little different from either perspective, but still same goal.
Well, and generations, are going to change. I mean, the baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer and, there's the idea that we had everything so easy, and I mean, things were good in a lot of ways for a long time. But I think that we just got to do a better job in talking to people and hearing what they say.
And having all those conversations, comfortable or not, have the conversation.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I went to Israel.
I want to hear.
And I was invited by a group called APAC. That's the American Israeli Political Action Committee, and they have an educational foundation.
Right.
And they brought a group of 18 of us from across the country that had never been to Israel before. And we flew in overnight and hit the ground running. We went to the Old City in Jerusalem. We went to the Western Wall. It was so interesting because the Western Wall is controlled by Orthodox Jews. And so the women go down one side, the men go down the other side. And then there's this ramp that goes up to the Temple Mount, which is the site of the temple in Jerusalem.
Right.
And it's controlled by Muslims. And so the Muslims walk up the ramp to the Temple Mount, but no one else can go up there.
Wow.
And then the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where Golgotha and the tomb of Jesus are, which is so much closer together than you think. Like when you watch movies, you think it's far apart. It's really not. So they have this very interesting dance they do where the part of the city it's in is controlled. Jerusalem's controlled by 4 different parts. So you've got Armenians, Armenian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Christian, and I don't remember what the 4th one was, probably Jewish. And different days, different people control the inside of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Different Christian sects do that. And the nuns and the monks sleep inside the church. And the section of the city it's in is controlled by a Muslim cleric or Muslims. And so at the end of the night, they close them up with this ceremony where the Muslim cleric closes them up in the church. And then in sunrise the next morning, they unlock the door and they have they've been doing this for like 600 years. Okay. So it's like,
that's amazing.
It was so amazing to see. And there are stairs everywhere. So just warn you, stairs
that's
everywhere.
Like going to Greece. There's no ADA in these foreign countries.
Stairs everywhere.
Be prepared.
So we did that. We also went to the Sea of Galilee. We went to Magdala, which is where Mary Magdalene is from. We also went to where the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount was done. So that was really good that we were able to do all of that. We had a communion service by the Sea of Galilee, which we had a great time with. And then we went to what's called the Gaza envelope, which is the area that's just outside of Gaza, where the attacks happened on October 7th.
Oh, wow.
And we met a lot of people who were involved on that day. Especially, there was a Bedouin police officer. A Bedouin is a Muslim police officer that saved 200 people from the Nova Festival that day.
Oh, wow.
And so this is a new Star of David with a cross in it that I'm wearing, because the one I've been wearing since October 7th, I gave to that Bedouin police officer.
Oh, Martha.
Because I took it over there with the idea I wanted to find the right person to give it to.
That's amazing.
And so I gave it to him, and he was great. I was crying. He was crying. We hugged. It was wonderful. And we went to the border of Lebanon, the border of Syria. We went into the border with the West Bank, and we spoke to Muslims and Christians and Palestinians. Now, look, I'm not so naive as to not understand that an Arab or a Palestinian or a Muslim that was willing to talk to an American pro-Israel group might be a little more pro than that. But at least we were able to talk to them about how their education was and how things were, and that was really good.
You got to ask your own questions?
We got to ask our own questions. And we went to the Knesset and we talked to members, and there are 20% Arab members at the Knesset. So it's so interesting because I could say it on the podcast, but we met with a general who said we effed up. We effed up on October 7th, but he used the actual word. He said, because we had this plan that we had discovered in 2021, and it outlined what they were planning to do by 2025.
That had been going on for a long time.
Yeah, so they knew it was going to, but I think they didn't think they could really get it together. And it did not come together the way it was planned. What it was planned is to have all 7 countries that are around Israel attack them at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't happen that way.
No.
And the other thing that didn't happen is they expected the Arab population to join in with the terrorists and help, okay? And that didn't happen either. And the reason why is because the Arabs that live in Israel do better than Arabs anywhere else in the Middle East.
Right. Wow.
They go to school. They have good jobs. They're represented in government. It's a really amazing country, and there's so much female leadership. I was so impressed by that, and I got to believe it's because of the conscription. Right. Everybody serves in the military. The Arabs do not have to. They can serve if they choose to. Right. But they don't want to put them in a position that they might be fighting their cousins who live in another country.
That's a thought.
Do you know what I mean? They don't want to put them in that position.
Right.
So, but because there are women that are colonels and generals and all that kind of stuff, you see that kind of leadership throughout their society.
I love it.
And I thought that was fantastic. And I just went away with a great understanding of how complicated this situation is.
More than people think, probably.
But that they want peace, I think two best things. We went to a Shabbat dinner on Friday night with a family, and the gentleman who hosted us said, yes, Shabbat dinners are to get together with friends and to marry off our unmarried children.
I had heard that. There's some sort of movie out on Netflix or somewhere out there.
It's called Jewish Matchmaker.
Yes, that was so good. And they talked about, it's like a series. It was a series or something.
Yes.
I don't know. But they talked about Shabbat. It was funny.
In the Shabbat dinner. And then the other time we had a dinner with 3 reservists that had been called up in the war. And one was a young guy that was in his first round of service. Another was a female that was heading up some intelligence services, and another was a wounded veteran, and he had lost his leg in a house. Because what Hamas did was they set these bombs and put cameras in there so that they could video the IDF soldiers getting blown up. And so they learned very quickly if you see a camera, there's probably a bomb.
Right.
Okay.
Oh.
Because
wow. Yeah.
So he went through all of his surgeries, and he's back serving. But he serves in a more intelligence, where he reads screens and things like that because he can't do that. But it was just so amazing to see these folks and to see how committed they were to their country and really how misunderstood they are by a lot of the world. And we've got to be there's 1 billion young people in the world right now that have been taught that Israel is the aggressor and that they are the ones, and they're the ones that in 10 years are going to be middle managers, and in 20 years they're going to be leaders. And we need to make sure that we get the education right, because it's not that Israel's perfect. It's that Israel owns up to their own problems and they take care of their own problems.
Well, regardless of where people's perspective is coming from, where that is, I think it's important that people understand that whatever you think it may be, it probably isn't.
That's right.
Number one, that's the safest bet. And number 2 is that things that involve world countries and ethnicities. I'm having a tough time with that one. But wherever that comes into play, unless you are completely educated on how all of that works, there's a lot of emotional factors in with that too. You can't possibly know. So I think taking a trip out of this country, going somewhere like that, especially now, Martha, with things as it's kind of a hotbed. It is a hotbed right now. And yes, we're seeing so many varieties of how people think. But it's never that one thing that you think it is. And it's important to get to know the human beings over there.
Right.
Right. And I think you are so blessed to be able to go and see that. Now, how would you feel? I'm not sure what it would feel like to go to the other side of the strip, to go in where some of the bombed out areas where there's just regular women and babies and men trying to put their lives back together on the Palestinian side. Now, just like us, there's some Palestinians there who probably are not aligned with, I'm sure, aren't aligned with Hamas and would like to see Hamas taken out as much as the next guy.
I think
so those few people are the ones that you look at and you think, it's just sad in general that our world is in such a place.
I think that's true, to a point. I thought one of the most telling stories, we had an agriculture presentation, of course, because they still have to grow things, and they actually, Israel has very little water and
Isn't
no
it like
oil.
A desert,
so
kind of a desert region is
so they figure out how to make it work. And one of the things that they weren't expecting was, so there were a large number of Palestinians that had work permits to come in and work in Israel prior to the war. So they would come in and work in the fields and the farms and things like that. Well, what they were also doing was, and these were regular people, were taking pictures of irrigation facilities, of this and that. So in addition to when Hamas first came in, they took out the police stations. They took out all the irrigation.
Yeah, but those weren't regular people. Those people had a plan. Those people were working with a purpose, taking photos for a reason.
They were, but they were regular people as far as how they got their visa. They presented themselves as that.
Right, but that doesn't make them.
No. But the point I'm making is that there were bombs that were placed at those places.
There's people that were helping.
And I think the funniest story, if you can find anything that's funny, is they stole a bunch of John Deere tractors and took them into Gaza. And the Israeli government was able to get in contact with John Deere, and John Deere disabled all their computer chips.
But
so they
with
couldn't
a satellite.
use them.
That's amazing how the world
I know.
works.
So
right
it was
now.
like that.
Just like make a phone call and everything goes dark.
That's right.
It's like crazy.
So I do think that there's, thankfully around the middle of November, the agreement that President Trump put forth was approved by the UN to try to rebuild Gaza. So that was done, and that's positive. And look, it just goes back to it was the taking of the hostages. Had the hostages been released, there would not have been a war. They shouldn't have taken them in the first place.
We don't know for sure, but because who would really know? Because it did happen. They did take hostages, and all hell rained down upon that region.
Yeah.
So it was the instigating factor. So that's what we know for a fact.
Right.
What could have or maybe not worked out afterwards, who knows? And that's just to give everybody some understanding. But peace is what we all want.
Peace is what they want, and they've agreed to it on many different times. And, you go back and you look, everybody talks about what's proportional. They took 250 hostages, they killed 1,400 people. What's proportional?
There's none
There's
of
no
that.
such thing. We had 2,500 people killed in Pearl Harbor, and we killed a lot more people than that. And we were considered victorious and the good side of the war.
Right.
Okay. It's to the victor goes the spoils. And we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm definitely going back with my husband. I
was going to ask you if he went, but he didn't go.
He didn't get to go. And I'm definitely going to go back with my husband because I think they need tourists to come back. Yeah. That's one thing. They need tourists to come back. And it's a beautiful place to visit. It's really a beautiful place to visit.
Well, I've heard a lot of good. I know a lot of people that have gone over there, and you actually were going every year for a while. It was just like a regular trip they took, and they were Christians. I mean, it's not like they were Jewish. They were Christians that would take the trip out there. But the one thing I think is real important, like you were saying, how the guy said they effed up, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to F up when you're thinking annihilation, right? Because you really, as being a human being, you really kind of get a blank spot when it comes to annihilation because you just want to hope that's never going to happen. And so I could see even those in the military would, like for us, apparently for 9/11, there was what do you call the information that comes through? There was intelligence. Right. That spoke of this master plan, and it wasn't like it should have been. It shouldn't have been as big a surprise, apparently, as it was.
I think we don't want to believe there's that much depravity in the world.
That's right. Like it's no one can find a way. It's our humanity, thank God, and I hope we never lose that to where we become immune or desensitized to war.
Well, and it's also the balance between, so you saw how much Israel was criticized for retaliating for being attacked.
Right.
Okay. What if they had this plan and they did a preemptive attack? Okay. Now that's kind of what we did in Iran earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
Where we couldn't let them get a nuclear bomb, and it looks like that worked. That preemptive attack worked. We've got everything kind of stabilized, and people are coming to the table that wouldn't normally negotiate with us. And so, we have to always, it's a challenge, and that's why you have to have good leadership.
Well,
that's why you have to have good
hope
leadership.
all of them at one point or another have played chess, because that is a great game to learn strategy, right? Yeah. But as Martha's wonderful trip relates to wellness, which is our show, is I think that for this country and for ourselves individually, to become the best rounded version of ourselves and have the best sense of mental health and wellness, you've got to go outside of here. You've got to travel to see the world and
So-
to be able to have an experience like
and
that.
I did go in the Dead Sea.
Did you?
I floated in the Dead Sea.
Wow.
And I tell you what, your skin is so soft when
Did
you
you
come
bring
out
me
of there.
some minerals? You know, I sell Dead Sea salts
Do
over
you
at the
really?
spa.
I have some water from the Sea of Galilee that I'm going to use for my niece's baptism.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
Yeah.
I did bring that. But it was funny because
Your skin was nice and soft.
nice and soft when I came out of the Dead Sea. It was something.
Tell
I
your
wasn't sure
friends.
about the spa where I got dressed, though. It was like I was tiptoeing around there just a little bit. But
That's
it was
funny.
just the way it is. But I would recommend if you get the opportunity to do it. And I know this is a little different than what we normally talk
Yeah,
about, but I felt it on my heart a little bit to talk about how important it was to go to Israel, and that how much we learned about this, and that they are the only democracy in the Middle East. They do have freedom for their people. There are people of all cultures. It's not, yes, it's a Jewish state.
It's a melting pot.
But it's a melting pot of all different kinds of cultures, and people get along. And they figure out a way to just keep going, even though they have such difficulties. And they've been
Right.
doing that for thousands of years.
It's kind of like a way of life in that
It is a way of
region.
life, very much so.
Yeah, and
But to be able to walk where Jesus walked,
that's cool.
and to be able to be in a temple
Yeah.
that he probably preached in, they know a few of the spots, but some of them they have to guess. Oh, well, it was probably on the way, and based on where we know he was here.
Did you ride a donkey?
I did not ride a
Dang
donkey.
it.
No, I did not ride a donkey.
Gosh.
No, but I did. I mean, I did a lot of praying, man, in places
Good.
that
Did you go
Jesus
to the
had
Wailing
been.
Wall?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
That to me seems like
Yeah.
a really cool experience.
Yeah, and you left a little
In a
prayer there.
note?
You
Yeah,
leave a
you
little
put
prayer.
prayer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the women are all on one side, and the men are on the other side, because it's controlled by the Orthodox Jews. We
Yeah.
had the hotel we were in observe Sabbath, so the elevators they had a Sabbath elevator that you didn't have to push any buttons on because the Orthodox can't use electricity on the Sabbath. So we were able to use the elevators because we
Okay, I
weren't
didn't know
Orthodox
that.
Jews, but they had it. It was really great, and it was a kosher kitchen. So it was. I mean, I learned a lot about
I
different
bet.
kinds of culture, and it was fantastic.
And you know, education. The one thing I can say that I do understand, and this is what I've done for my children, right? I was that mom that forced my children to do well in school, and I was pretty strict. I don't think things are quite the way they used to be when it comes to raising children, but my standards were pretty high when it came to education, because I felt like once that's something that no one ever, no regime, no war, no anything can take what you learn from you. Can
Yes.
take anything from you. Maybe Alzheimer's can, but that's a whole different conversation we can have at some point. But I made sure that my children got their education to the best of my ability, so that they would have options in life and have an open mind. And you know what? We never stop learning, do we, Martha?
Oh, I love that. I'm a lifelong learner.
Me too. Like, that's why we love what we're doing right now. And we love talking to each other and talking to you guys and having a whole realm where I'd love to get more participation at some point.
We'd love for you to like and subscribe to the program.
Yeah.
We're so happy that you were here with us today. Thank you for indulging us, and I hope you've enjoyed it. We love it.
We do. And we're going to keep doing it as long as we can. Maybe you'll see us out in more public spaces where we can have conversations one day with other real people that have something to say about our topics. Maybe at the spa. We don't know. We might take it on the road a little bit. We both like to travel. But anyway, Martha and I are very committed to wellness, and we like to talk a lot. So, as usual, we know that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.